I know that it doesn't matter if your skill level is at the top of the top, if your drive is at the middle of the road. If you have drive, let's say 0 to 10, 10 being the most drive, 0 being the least. That's our scale, 10, right? 0 to 10. If your drive is on 5 and your skill's on 10, you got no shot. If your drive's on 10 and your skill's on 5, you got a shot. And this is the way it works. It took me a really long time to realize this, but this is why it's so important to not tie yourself to anyone that you may think is such a great person at whatever skill level they have that's amazing. If their drive isn't matching your drive, then you will have the hardest time just getting them to show up, getting them on board, getting them to come do what you need them to do in order to get where you know you could get because of the drive you have. This is what I want everyone to understand. The people that aren't successful, in my opinion, it's not because of their lack of skill. It's because of their lack of drive. The people who have the most amount of skill but no drive will never break through because they won't do enough work to break through. As soon as they get towards the end of something hard, they will stop. As soon as something becomes the least bit difficult in their life, they'll stop. They'll always have a reason to stop because it was never really important to them to begin with. That's the point. In other words, the level of drive, if you're looking for people to help you in what you're doing, that's what you search for. Who has the most drive? Their talent could be less, but when you look through time at all the people who have succeeded, we know of the people who have succeeded, and every artist has their imperfections, and perfection is not what anyone is searching for when they're trying to find, someone who they love to listen to. We're not looking for perfection. The human brain is looking for greatness. Greatness comes in a unique form, uniqueness. Greatness is a part of uniqueness. It's not a part of being perfect. I can't think of any artists through time that have ever been perfect. There's always something that's weird, something that's off, something that doesn't work quite right, and that makes them great. Some difference, something hindrance, something that holds them back. So this is what I want you to know also. I, through time, always tried to get people I knew, you try to start businesses with your friends. You try to always have somebody with you. Why? Because you feel stronger when that's the case. At least this is my experience. I felt like if I had this person's help, I'd be stronger. It makes you feel more empowered, more emboldened, more just everything is wow, I feel bolder because this dude is here. Okay? So, and that could be because you think they're more talented than you. It's a very common thing. But if that person doesn't have the same level of drive you have, all it's going to do is create upset every time you're trying to get things going and they don't show up. They cancel. Every time you want to go in this direction because it can't hurt, it's just a constant push, but they always give you reasons why it's a bad idea. And these reasons are always tied to effort. They're tied to how hard it will be. They're tied to where's the money going to come from? They're tied to everything that you cannot think about in the art world. You cannot make whether you succeed or not dependent on how it financially is going to make sense. As soon as you're doing that, you're really putting yourself in a bad position. Everyone who will tell you that logic and art and music, they don't really go together. They're never the twain shall meet, opposite sides of what's going on. And there's a reason. Because in order to be a great artist, you sort of have to forego logic. You have to let that disappear. You cannot be locked in a logical world and really create great art. You can create calculated art, which isn't art. That's why you get these sequels when they're made based on what the audience will like, and the audience doesn't like them because that's not what good art is. That's commerce, and it's a totally different thing. So if you think that you'll be able to use logic to determine what the right path is for art, no. What you need to do is use drive to just keep going. Something interesting happened to me today, and I just want to share it with you guys. It's just funny. Sometimes things hit me like this, right? There was this bee trapped on the inside of my screen door, like this sliding door. So he was on the outside. He wasn't on the inside. He was on the outside of, exposed to the world, let's say. But the screen was blocking him, and he was behind it, so he didn't know how to get out. And I'm watching this bee, and I'm thinking, go that way. He starts walking the right way, and he keeps going. And then all of a sudden, you guys know what happens probably. The bee stops, decides to turn around and start walking the other way. All I kept thinking as I'm watching this is such a good representation of every human soul who gives up when they're on the way to their journey. They're on the way, and it's getting harder, it's getting longer, it's getting less certain, it's getting to the point where they don't know what will happen if they keep going in that direction. And they just give up. They turn around, they start walking the other way. This is why people who get lost in the woods often mess up. They'll walk around in circles constantly. It's not exactly the same point. The point with the bee makes so much sense to me, where it's like, in the woods, if you know you're walking in a straight line and you just walk far enough in a straight line, you're way better off than walking around in circles. But that's different because you actually need a bearing to determine where a straight line is in the woods. So it's kind of different. When I look at the bee situation, he's walking in a direction and he's on this big screen and he probably can't tell what's in front of him. All he had to do was keep going. When it got long, when it got too hard, when it got to a point where he didn't know what was going to happen next, if he just kept going, he would get to the end of the screen and he would be free. He'd be able to fly out that freaking screen. I'm going to point the finger at myself. For so long, I thought when it got hard, I would stop trying. I'd pivot. I'd do something else. I've always been doing music my whole life, but this concept of when it gets hard, keep going. You don't know how many videos I put out. I got no views, no likes, no nothing. Video after video after video. I could have easily stopped and turned around. You'd never see me if I did. So this means a lot to me, this concept. The idea that you just keep going is everything. You push. And you don't need anyone to ordain to you and come down and say, hey, you're going to be famous. I'm going to sign you to a label. You are ordained. You will be successful. That's what people think. People who want to be great musicians, a lot of times, if they're especially the super talented ones, they're going to think it's just coming to them. They're going to think they've done enough. They're so good at their instrument, it should come to them. They don't have to keep trying and work harder and have the drive that somebody has who really, really, really needs it. It's everything to them. They won't be able to look at themselves in the mirror another day unless they're trying as hard as they can. If you're not that person, become that person. Or I venture to say you don't even really want this. Because if you do, you can become that person. The person who's sick of themselves when they don't work as hard as they possibly can that day. Every day, you never sleep until you've done every possible thing you can do that day. You don't say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'm just going to go to sleep. I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do that tomorrow. Your life becomes, you're putting it off till tomorrow. And one day, every day you have is gone. One day it all runs out. And I got news for you before you just turn this whole thing off, tune me out completely. Let me just say this. If you think you're okay with that, you won't be upset if you have all this talent and you never actually work hard enough. You never put in those sweat hours, that sweat equity. You never put that in. You think you may only be hurting yourself. It's absolutely wrong. You'll hurt every single one around you, everyone near you, everyone connected with you, from your pets all the way up the line, your girlfriend, your wife, and if you're a female, the opposite, right, or whatever, same sex, the point is, brother, sister, cousin, husband, everybody near you, friends, relatives, the whole thing, your parents. You think you won't fly off the handle every chance you get because the resentment inside is deep. The fact that you resent your days in this world when you realize you don't get them back. See, that's the thing. If you know anybody who does this kind of thing, who's so talented and never takes it anywhere, they're hiding it now. They're hiding their resentment now for how they feel about themselves. But as time goes by and the less days they have left in their life, once they realize, see, everybody thinks they live forever when they're young, but a certain point, after a certain point in time, once you realize for whatever reason that your days are numbered and one day it will come an end, you start getting more and more and more and more bitter. And this could be, it doesn't have to be when you're old. You could notice this early. But the point is, once you notice that and you still don't do this thing, like, it could be too late for you then to do this kind of trying. The kind of trying you need to do to succeed, it could be too freaking late by the time you realize it. So I just want everyone to realize that it's not something you can really foresee yourself being, as a resentful person who flies off the handle and snaps every chance they get, gets mad for no reason, is basically trying to prove themselves to everyone they talk to, trying to prove to every single person, like, it starts arguments out of nowhere, it gets really deeply hurt and offended easily. Why do you think that is? It's because you know deep down inside you aren't living up to who you are. That's why it happens. And every day you continue to do that, it gets worse. And everyone around you will pay the price. And if you're not already isolated, you'll become an isolated person. Somebody who has very few people around them, very few people who can even stand to be around them. Because once you start acting like that, you'll be surprised. The people who have to be around you maybe will. And once they think they don't either, because it's just too much, they don't want to deal with you, they won't either. So you're setting yourself up for that. If you think you can go through life half trying, waiting for somebody to ordain that you're the one, because it ain't the way it works. You become the one by having the drive. So this also, I want to tie into this. If you think you need somebody to help you in business, or to help you get what you're doing, your career off the ground, you don't. You just need you. Only you. You put it on you. And if you need a producer to help you, that's great, because he's a hired hand, or somebody who is like you, who has this kind of mentality where his drive is to the 20th to power. The dude is way driven, but you don't need to pick a friend who's really talented, who's got no drive. You need people who have drive on your level if you're going to do anything with them and try to be successful. Because if you don't, if you pick I would rather have somebody with less talent and equal drive to me if I'm going to do anything with them. Because if anybody has less than that, I'm chasing them. I gotta find them. They're not here. They don't show up. I'm disappointed when they don't come. I gotta clear that out of my head before I could do anything. I'm dealing with the repercussions of their lack of drive. And I don't want that. Once I realized I could be self-sufficient, everything changed for me. But you got to shed the ability of thinking, the thought process of thinking you need them. You got to shed the whole thing, thinking that without them, you're not as capable. Without them, you're not as strong. Without them, you don't have as great of a chance. It's not true. If they had as much drive as you, then that might be true. But if they got no drive, or they just say they have drive, but they never actually keep showing up and actually prove the drive, then it's worthless them saying they have drive. It's also worthless regretting your past days. Anytime you think you'll do it tomorrow makes no sense. Do it right now. Right now is the moment to do it. And then tomorrow you do the same thing. Because it's once you start putting it off till tomorrow, that becomes a habit. I'm going to put it off till tomorrow. I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm a little tired today. I'm going to do that later. That becomes a habit. Just like working becomes a habit. Just like every day putting out anything is hard, and it becomes a habit when you do. You know what I'm saying? Put the work in every day, the drive in every day. Then you don't need somebody to say, hey, you're the guy. I want to make you successful. Every musician who's ever thought they need to be signed should take comfort in the fact of knowing that today you don't. Today, the men, the people who, like, what separates the men from the boys, this applies to all, any gender, but the truth is what separates the men from the boys is drive. The people who say they really want it from the people who say they don't want it is drive. That's the difference. Okay? If you think that you really want it, prove it. Prove it. And if you think you want it, but you're not sure, and you always do it tomorrow, then don't be surprised when the clock runs out and you become resentful every day before that, more and more and more, and you realize how you have this hate and this anger in yourself and you don't know how it got there, this is how it got there. All right? And every day is another chance for you to turn this around and change it up until you're gone. So you might as well start now, because the less time you have left, the more resentful you will be and the harder it will be to change you. So I hope you guys dug it. Honestly, this is one of those things that it means a lot to me. It means so much to me. So I have to share it, because I believe each one of you is way more than capable within yourself. You don't need any help. But if you want to reach out to help, it better be people with the drive like you have, because then you can keep going and your drive with their drive will work. And it doesn't matter if their talent is as high as somebody who may have all the talent and no drive. That does not matter. That person doesn't stand a chance. All the people who are successful, it's because their drive was super successful. You cannot count on getting lucky. You cannot count on I must get lucky. That's a ridiculous way to live life. You are the luck. You put it into everything you do. All right, do me a favor, throw a little luck or any sort of positivity down in the comment section. Show people what's really good about things you've achieved through this, all right, or what you're going to do. Either way, subscribe if you haven't already. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys, each one of you within yourself, you got this.